He kissed me first, and God, I hated him for it. Not because I didn't want Ithel, I wanted it more than air, but because it wasn't supposed to happen this way. It wasn't part of the plan. I had sworn to myself that Tyler Green would pay for what he'd done to my brother, for the way his family's money and name had crushed mine into the dirt. So I did the most logical thing my twisted heart could conjure. I got close to him. Pretended I liked him. Pretended I wanted him. Pretended until the pretending didn't feel fake anymore. The story begins in a small town just outside Chicago, where everyone knew everyone's business, or at least thought they did. I wasn't some tragic figure begging for sympathy. I was a man with a mission, and the mission was revenge. My brother had lost his scholarship, his future shattered, because of a single lie Tyler had let spread through school. And while Tyler went off to college, polished his reputation, and came back like a golden boy, my brother spiraled into depression until the night he drove his car into the river. So yeah, I wanted blood. And if blood wasn't possible, I wanted Tyler's heart torn out and left bleeding on the pavement. But the universe has a sick sense of humor. Because the moment I walked into the Green family's Kafihi's cafe now, after his father passed, and saw him behind the counter, hair falling into his eyes as he tried to juggle too many orders with that maddening smile, something inside me faltered. He wasn't the monster I'd built in my head. He was human, flawed, beautiful in the kind of way that made you angry just for noticing. And that was the problem. "Ethan, right?" he said that first day, his voice warm like honey, like he didn't remember how his silence had destroyed a boy's future, like he didn't remember me at all. I clenched my jaw. "Yeah, Ethan. Coffee's on the house," he said, sliding a cup across the counter. His fingers brushed mine too gentle, too accidental, and I almost dropped the damn cup. That was how it started. With a cup of coffee and a plan. I told myself I'd make him fall, make him care, make him regret. But nights blurred into mornings. Laughter slipped between us, and suddenly revenge tasted bitter on my tongue. One evening, we ended up walking along the river. The same river that had swallowed my brother. I hadn't meant to go there with him, but his car broke down nearby, and he laughed at the situation like it wasn't the end of the world. "Guess we're stranded," he said, shoving his hands into his jacket pockets. Not the worst place to be stuck, though. Kind of peaceful. Peaceful. That word burned. My chest tightened. He didn't know what this place meant to me. He couldn't. "Tyler," I said, the words sharp, heavy, trembling with too much weight. "Do you even remember what you did?" He stopped walking. His face tilted, confusion flickering in his eyes. "What I did?" "My brother," I spat. "Jason. You remember him? Of course you don't. You ruined his life, and he wasn't worth remembering to you, was he?" The silence that followed felt like a punch. Tyler's jaw tensed, his eyes darkened, and for the first time, I saw cracks in his perfect facade. "Ethan," he whispered, voice breaking. "I never meant God. I never thought." He shut his eyes, as if trying to erase something behind them. "You think I don't remember? I remember every damn day." And just like that, the ground beneath me shifted. This was supposed to be simple. Pretend to care, then rip his heart out. But standing there, with the river glinting under the dying sun and Tyler's face etched with guilt, I realized nothing about this was simple. Because I didn't just see the boy who'd stood silent while my brother's future was stolen. I saw the man who was breaking right in front of me, who carried scars I hadn't known existed, who looked at me like maybe, just maybe, I was the only thing keeping him from drowning. And I hated myself for wanting to save him. That night, lying awake in my too small apartment, his voice replayed in my head. The way he said my name, softer than anyone ever had. The way his eyes burned when he admitted he remembered. It wasn't the voice of someone who didn't care. It was the voice of someone haunted. And that terrified me more than anything. Because if Tyler wasn't the villain, then what the hell did that make me? It's funny how silence can scream louder than any word. After that night by the river, Tyler and I didn't speak for 3 days. 3 days where my phone buzzed with his name more times than I could count. Each call unanswered, each message unopened. I told myself ignoring him was the right thing, that I was regaining control of the narrative. pulling back into the shadows of my original plan. But when I saw him through the cafe window, dark circles under his eyes, his smile dimmed into something fragile. I hated how much I ached. Revenge was supposed to taste sweet. Instead, it tasted like ashes. "Ethan," he said when I finally walked through the door. His voice cracked around my name, and I almost pretended I didn't hear it. Almost. I took a seat at the counter, cold and deliberate. "Coffee. Black." He nodded, hands trembling slightly as he poured. His fingers brushed the cup too hard, and hot liquid sloshed over the edge. "Sorry," he muttered, wiping at it. I've been wanting to talk to you." "You don't owe me anything," I said flatly, staring into the steam rising from the cup. "That's the thing," he whispered. "I think I do." Tyler wasn't the kind of guy who bared his soul easily. He was the kind of man who tucked pain behind smiles, who laughed off wounds as if they were scratches. But that night, after his shift ended, he found me outside and asked if I could walk with him. I should have said no, should have kept my distance. But I followed him into the cool night air, the sound of our footsteps echoing on cracked sidewalks. "My dad," he began quietly, "always said green boys don't cry. Said we had to be strong, had to hold the family name like it was some sacred torch." His voice tightened. "So when the rumors about Jason started, I knew the truth. I knew he didn't cheat, but I kept my mouth shut because I was afraid. Afraid my dad would see me as weak. Afraid of the guys on the team. Afraid of everything." I froze mid-step. His words burned through me like wildfire. "You knew," I whispered. He stopped, staring at the ground. I knew. Rage surged up my throat. I wanted to hit him, to scream until the night swallowed every sound. Instead, I stood there shaking, my fists clenched so hard my nails dug into my palms. "Do you realize what your silence cost him? What it cost me?" Tyler's shoulders slumped. He looked smaller somehow, like all the weight he carried had finally collapsed on top of him. "Every day," he said, "I replay it. And every day I wonder if maybe Jason would still be alive if I'd had the guts to speak up." For a long moment I couldn't breathe. The truth I'd been waiting for, craving, demanding, was finally here. And instead of giving me closure, it split me open wider. Because Tyler wasn't denying it. He wasn't deflecting. He was drowning in the same guilt that had kept me awake for years. And against every instinct in me, I wanted to pull him to the surface. The days that followed blurred into something dangerous. I kept telling myself I should cut him off, finish what I started. But instead, I let him in. He started showing up at my apartment with takeout. "You'll starve if left alone," he joked, balancing greasy boxes in his arms. He learned my favorite song and played it on the Café Sol jukebox, pretending it was just coincidence. One night, when the rain came down hard enough to wash the world away, we sat shoulder to shoulder on my couch, sharing cheap pizza and talking about everything except the things that mattered most. His laugh shook the walls. His eyes found mine and lingered too long. And before I knew it, his hand brushed mine, tentative, asking for permission without words. I should have pulled away. Instead, I intertwined my fingers with his. But love, if that's what it was, doesn't erase the past. It doesn't wipe clean the scars or silence the ghosts. It was late on a Friday when I ran into someone from high school. Mark, one of the guys who used to sneer at Jason, who used to whisper in the locker room. He spotted me with Tyler outside the grocery store, his smirk cutting sharper than a knife. Well, Mark drawled. "Didn't think I'd see you two playing house. Guess some things never change. Green boys. Huh? Always needing a toy." I snapped before I could stop myself. My fist connected with his jaw, and the shock of it sent fire through my arm. Tyler yanked me back, shouting my name, but it was too late. Mark was on the ground, spitting blood, laughing like I'd proven him right. That night, Tyler showed up at my door again. He didn't look angry. He looked tired, heartbroken. "Ethan," he said softly, "you can't keep carrying this hate. It's killing you." "It's not hate," I shot back. "It's justice." "No," he whispered, stepping closer, his voice breaking. Justice doesn't make you bleed like this. The tears I'd held back for years finally spilled over. And when Tyler pulled me into his arms, I didn't fight. I broke. We stayed like that for a long time, tangled in silence, hearts beating too fast. And in that fragile, trembling moment, I knew the truth I had been denying. I didn't want revenge anymore. I wanted him, but the world doesn't hand you peace so easily. Because the second you admit what you want, life has a cruel way of testing if you're willing to fight for it. And God, was I about to be tested. The morning after Tyler held me as if I might vanish, I woke with a hollow ache that refused to leave. The truth sat like a stone in my chest. I wasn't pretending anymore. My plan, my carefully constructed armor, had cracked in the quiet of his embrace. But admitting it to myself was one thing. Admitting it to the world, to him, was another. I still had Mark's sneer echoing in my skull, his words dripping poison, reminding me of every reason I had built this plan of vengeance in the first place. The town had always whispered about my family, about Jason, about me. And now, seeing me with Tyler, the whispers would come back, sharper and crueler than ever. Tyler didn't seem to care. He showed up at the cafe with an energy that bordered on reckless. He leaned over counters just a little too close. He let his hand brush mine when no one was watching. And sometimes even when people were watching. "Stop that," I hissed one afternoon when his fingers grazed mine while he handed me my change. "Stop what?" His grin was infuriating. "Being nice? Being obvious? Being reckless?" I muttered, glancing around. An old woman near the window was staring at us with raised brows, her spoon clinking against her cup. He leaned closer, his breath warm at my ear. "Let them look." I hated how my heart flipped at those 3 words. Hated that I wanted to believe him. But gossip in a town like ours spreads faster than fire in dry grass. By the end of the week, people were looking at me differently. Some with curiosity, some with outright disdain. At the grocery store, Mrs. Thompson muttered something about boys these days, loud enough for me to hear. At the gas station, 2 guys from high school laughed when they saw Tyler and me pull up together. The hardest part wasn't the stares. It was the way my mother looked at me when I came home for Sunday dinner. She placed a plate of roast chicken in front of me, her hands trembling slightly. "I ran into Linda Green at the market," she said carefully, not meeting my eyes. She mentioned, "You and Tyler have been spending time together." I froze, the fork heavy in my hand. So. Her voice was quiet, fragile. "Ethan, after everything, are you sure this is wise?" "Wise?" I snapped, anger bubbling up like bile. Was it wise when this town let Jason die? Was it wise when everyone chose silence over truth? Her face crumpled. "I just don't want you hurt." The words hit harder than any insult. My mother had already buried one son. She was terrified of losing another even if it was just a heartbreak. That night, I stormed into the cafe long after closing, the bell over the door jangling like an accusation. Tyler looked up from wiping down tables, surprise flashing across his face. "Ethan, do you get it?" I cut him off, voice shaking. "Do you understand what you're asking me to risk? My mother, this town, my sanity? You walk around like it's so easy, like their words don't matter. But they do. They always have." His rag landed on the counter with a sharp slap. His jaw tightened. "You think it's easy for me? You act like it is." "I act," he shot back, his eyes burning. "Because if I stop, I'll drown in everything I've done, in everything I didn't do. You're not the only one with ghosts, Ethan." The silence between us was jagged, painful. For the first time, I saw the depth of his scars, not the guilt alone, but the loneliness. The way carrying his family's name had caged him. My chest hurt with how badly I wanted to close the distance, to tell him we could face it together. But fear chained me. So instead, I turned and left, the door slamming behind me. The next few weeks felt like a storm I couldn't escape. Tyler didn't chase Mennett right away. He gave me space, though I knew it was killing him. I buried myself in work, in the facade of normalcy, but every quiet moment was filled with him. His laugh, his eyes, his damn stubborn heart. And then came the night of the town fair. The fair had always been Jason's favorite: bright lights, cheap rides, fried food that made you sick but happy. I hadn't gone since he died. But this year, for reasons I couldn't explain, I found myself wandering through the crowd, the scent of popcorn and cotton candy thick in the air. And there he was, Tyler, standing by the Ferris wheel, looking at me like he'd been waiting. I almost turned around. Almost. But something in his gaze rooted me to the spot. "Ride with me," he said when I got close enough to hear. "I don't. Just once," he whispered. "For him. For Jason." The sound of my brother's name on his lips shattered the last of my resistance. We climbed into the Ferris wheel, the seat rocking gently as the operator pulled the lever. The world lifted beneath us, lights glittering like stars. And for the first time in years, I felt something close to peace. Halfway up, Tyler turned to me. His eyes were raw, vulnerable. "I can't change the past. I can't bring him back. But I can promise you this eye won't be silent again. Not for you. Not for us." My throat closed. The night air pressed against my skin, sharp and cold. But his words warmed something deep inside me. And before I could think, before I could second guess, I leaned in and kissed him. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't careful. It was desperate, furious, aching with years of pain and longing. And when he kissed me back, the world below disappeared. For a moment, there was no town, no whispers, no ghosts, just us. But every high comes with a fall. When the ride ended, when we stepped off hand in hand, the world rushed back in. A group of people stared. Someone's phone flashed. And suddenly, I knew we weren't a secret anymore. Tyler squeezed my hand tighter, his jaw set with quiet defiance. I, on the other hand, felt the ground tilt beneath me. Because loving him in the dark was one thing. Loving him in the light meant war. And I wasn't sure if I was ready. The fallout came fast and brutal. Photos of us at the fair spread through town like wildfire. Social media posts, gossip whispered in grocery aisles, pointed looks in church pew sit was all-consuming. My mother sat me down at the kitchen table, her hands trembling as she tried to hide tears behind her coffee cup. "Ethan," she said softly, "people are talking." "I know." My voice cracked. "I don't care what they say about you," she whispered. "But I worry what it'll do to you. I can't lose you too." Her words gutted me, because she wasn't rejecting me, not really. She was afraid. Afraid of the world, of the cruelty we both knew too well. "I'm not Jason, Mom," I said quietly. "I'm still here, and I want to live, really live, with him." She stared at me for a long time, eyes glistening. And finally, she nodded. "Then live, Ethan. Don't hide." But not everyone was willing to accept it. The Greens were furious. Tyler's mother cornered me outside the cafe one afternoon, her face pale with rage. "You think you can drag him down with you? After everything this family has built?" Her voice was sharp enough to cut glass. I stood my ground, though my pulse thundered. "I didn't drag him anywhere. He chose me." Her eyes narrowed. "Then he's a fool." Behind her, Tyler appeared, his jaw clenched. "No, Mom," he said firmly. "For the first time in my life, I'm not." It was the first time I'd seen him stand up to her. The moment was small, but it felt monumental. Still, the weeks that followed were hell. Customers boycotted the cafe. Old friends turned their backs. Mark and his crew didn't stop with sneers. They scrawled slurs on the cafe windows, shouted names in the parking lot. One night, after closing, Tyler and I found the words "You don't belong" sprayed across the cafe door in red paint. I felt fury rising, but Tyler just stood there, shoulders sagging, pain carved into his features. "They'll never let us forget," he whispered. I grabbed his hand. "Then we'll remind them. Every damn day, we'll remind them we're still here." He looked at me, eyes shining with unshed tears. And in that moment, I knew we weren't fighting just for ourselves. We were fighting for every silence, every shadow, every love story that had been forced underground. But love, even battered, has a way of blooming. We found moments of joy in the cracks of the storm. Lazy mornings where sunlight spilled across tangled sheets. Nights driving out of town, where no one knew our names and we could laugh without fear. Tyler playing my favorite song on his guitar, off-key but perfect, while I threw popcorn at him to shut him up. It wasn't easy, but it was ours. And slowly, the noise around us began to fade. People got tired of gossip. The stares softened. Some customers returned to the cafe. Even Mrs. Thompson, who once muttered about boys these days, left a tip twice the bill one morning, whispering, "For courage." Not everyone accepted us, but enough did. And that was enough. The real test came months later, on a rainy evening when I found Tyler sitting by the river. The same river where Jason's car had sunk beneath the water. "I keep coming back here," he admitted, rain soaking his hair, his jacket clinging to him. "Like if I punish myself enough, it'll make up for what I didn't do back then." I sat beside him, the grass damp under us. "Tyler, punishing yourself won't bring him back. It won't fix the past." His voice cracked. "Then how do I live with it?" I reached for his hand, threading my fingers through his. "By making sure the future looks nothing like the past. With me, with us. We can't save Jason, but we can save each other." He looked at me then, eyes full of storm and sunlight all at once, and he kissed me, slow and trembling, like a man choosing life for the first time. That was the moment I knew revenge had died, and something stronger had taken its place. Years later, when people asked how we lasted, I'd laugh and say, "We were too stubborn to let go." But the truth was simpler. We chose each other, every day, through whispers, through storms, through the weight of ghosts. The town didn't change overnight. Some people never changed at all. But we did. And in the end, that was enough. Because love real love isn't about erasing the pain. It's about building something beautiful on top of it, together. On a crisp autumn morning, Tyler and I stood hand in hand at the edge of that same field where we first confessed everything. The sun rose behind us, painting the sky in fire and gold. "I used to think falling for you was the biggest mistake of my life," I said, smiling faintly. He laughed, squeezing my hand. "And now I know," I whispered. "It was the only thing that ever saved me." His eyes softened, and he pulled me close, pressing his forehead to mine. And as the world stretched out before us, wide and uncertain, I realized we didn't need a perfect ending. We just needed ours. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.